The Dallas Mavericks had probably the most underrated offseason. They really was able to build on their team and get pieces that complement and makes the team better. This offseason for the Mavericks was all about defense, 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 and they got defensive pieces, and boy oh boy, they needed defensive pieces. They weren't the worst team on defense last year, but you can see Luka and Tim Hardaway Jr. in that backcourt really wasn't perfect defensively. Offensively, yes, but not defensively. And they went out and got Josh Richardson. I already covered Josh on this channel, and he is going to fit in fine with the Mavericks. He's a 3-and-D guy who you can have play make a bit and be an off-ball threat. Really a under-the-radar guy who didn't have the best season last year in Philly, but Philly wasn't the best situation out there due to their terrible spacing. The Mavs did give up Seth Curry, and that broke my heart because he was a valuable guy off the bench that could score and shoot the three ball at a high level. He was the best shooter on this team, but the Mavs had to sacrifice Curry for a crippling issue with this team. They needed defense. The Mavs offense will be fine. Probably will miss that added three-point shooting by Seth, but Rick Carlisle is one of the best offensive head coaches out there, and Luka Doncic exists. He has shooting and lob threats around him, so the offense should be fine. But what is offense if you can't stop anyone, especially in late game situations? And I will stress, last season was a huge problem for the Mavericks in finishing late games. They lost a lot of games blowing leads because they couldn't stop anyone, and they didn't know how to close games out. This was more so due to the team being young and inexperienced, but this Mavs team, if they close games out, was a top 5 seed. They really wasn't a 7th seed in the West. And sometimes you got poor decision making late in games by Luka. You can see the team crumble a bit when teams start to put pressure on them in late game situations. That's something the Mavs have to improve on, and they did show improvement in the playoffs. But that's why I love the addition of a James Johnson. They traded for him, very small trade, and got rid of Justin Jackson and DeLon Wright. The lack of him being aggressive more so killed him staying on the Mavericks, so he was going to be traded. Justin Jackson didn't look strong last season and got limited minutes. James Johnson will give you solid minutes, and he is a veteran. 33 years old, been around the game for a while, and he's an enforcer type of guy, and that's what the Mavs need. Veterans being a part of a young team is incredibly necessary and important, and I believe JJ Barea signed back as well. Not too sure on the contract details, but I'd imagine he will be back on this team. Veterans are the guys that will hold players accountable, give them insight on how to execute game plans, and just be more so of a locker room leader because they have been around the game for so long. The Mavericks got to the playoffs without veterans, which is impressive, but their youth was at times showing, especially when Kristaps got ejected in Game 1 of the playoffs. James Johnson is that locker room enforcer, and he's going to be a guy that helps, take these guys back, take back a Kristaps, don't do anything reckless, and he's just going to be that guy to give insight into these younger players, and I'm glad they got a veteran here. The Mavericks had one of the best drafts out there. They got Josh Green with the 18th pick, defensive guy who should see some good minutes. He can honestly emerge in a few seasons or so as a starter for the Mavericks. They took a shooting point guard in Tyrell Terry with the 31st pick, which I like the pick. I like his game, but I'm kind of wary if he even plays a lot of minutes for this team because Rick Carlisle exists, and I don't think he trusts rookie point guards all too much. He will be playing behind a rotation of Trey Burke, who I'm glad they picked up. He looked like Allen Iverson in the bubble. Obvious joke there. And Jalen Brunson, who is coming back off from injury. We'll see if Terry gets minutes here, but he is a shooter and looked to be a guy that replaces Seth Curry. With the Seth Curry trade, the Mavericks also got the 36th pick in the draft, and they got another defensive guy in Tyler Bay. And I'm glad they prioritized defense a lot in this draft and got some hard-working young defensive guys to come in and help. And that's all you can really ask for the Mavericks right now. They did sign back Willie Cauley-Stein, Tim Hardaway opted into his contract, Nate Hinton and Freddie Gillespie signed a two-way contract, and they brought in another defensive guy in Wes Iwundu, who is a gritty defender that played for the Magic. I wish they upgraded for a big, but they may be satisfied with Kleber, Powell, Willie Cauley-Stein, Boban, which isn't bad, but could use an upgrade. Not really big moves in this free agency in terms of signing bigger free agents because they have bigger plans for next offseason in 2021. They should have another max slot to go ahead and try to bring in another star alongside Kristaps and Luka. The Mavs are another team that will try to bring in Giannis, so there's that. Obviously, Kristaps Porzingis is coming off of an injury, probably won't start the season and will return likely, say, January or February, I believe. He tore his meniscus, and that's another big injury to a guy like Kristaps. But even with the other injury, Kristaps came in, showed some rust, but still averaged 20 points per game. He is needed. His length offense really takes pressure off of Luka, so hoping he comes back fine. He always bounces back. Dwight Powell is also coming off an injury, who I'm concerned about because he tore his Achilles, and majority of his game is based around his athleticism. He's a lob threat, and that's where he makes his money off of, pick and roll feeds from Luka. I don't know if he has that same bounce that he used to have, and he is someone who's going to have to be monitored throughout the season. I don't have to say much about Luka because he will be an MVP candidate and just makes his team better. He helped make Hardaway a very good player. Powell, Kleber, Trey Burke. Luka makes things happen for this team, and that's why the Mavs will be scary. Luka is in his third year now, got playoff experience, and is growing to be a leader on this team. The Mavs surrounded him with pick and roll threats and shooters and more defense. I expect them to be in that Western Conference playoff fight. This team got better in free agency, and they turned scraps in their roster other than Seth Curry into defensive pieces for this team. They got more added defense, which they need a lot, so I expect the Mavericks to still be a top offensive team but also take a leap defensively. And if they are able to do that, they'll be showing shades of championship contenders.